So this belief that crystals were evil and bad and I should be afraid of them, I had to heal it. And I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this space. Welcome to this space, the AwakenPod, the AwakenPod. Are you a member of the AwakenPod? I mean, like, do you watch these videos and find spaces of them that you relate to, that feel like they're helpful, uh, that uplift, encourage, empower, enrich your way, your day, your life in some sense? And if your answer is yes, then you're a member of the Awaken Pod. So welcome. I'm so grateful to be this space with you. And today we're going to talk about, I think it's a pretty cool subject, 10 things that I do now, that I have in my life now, that are part of my, like, every day in a sense. Not, I guess I don't do all of them every single day, but they're part of how I do my life. Okay. So things, experiences, and items that I implement in my life now that I didn't implement, that I didn't have in my life before I stepped fully into my awakened being. So I lived the majority of my life. I had a wonderful life, beautiful life space. Probably 40 some years of my life was what I think we could call, was a regular life. It was a very good regular life, but it was like yeah, the way it was laid out and the way I was living it was very by the book. It was like, okay, well, if you're a woman and if you are raised in a Christian family and if you are living in America and if you were born in the 70s and if you were white and if you were this and if you were that, then this is the, you know, go-to life for you. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's a fantastic go-to life and I love my life. I love my life. But there were spaces of me, my personal spiritual essence, that didn't have any room in my life. And that's not because of the specific life I was living. That's just, I believe, the majority of humanity. So we come in and we remember. We're born and we remember our essence. And we are raised in societal structures and education systems and cultural teachings, even at times, not all, but at times, that, yes, take us out of that remembrance more and more of being an eternal space of consciousness having a now. And so as I realized I was more and I began to allow my more, I began to kind of create an entirely new life and a new world for myself. And it did flow into my family, but they're very happy it did, because they went from living with someone who was edgy and angry, on and off, sporadic, mood swings, one day happy, one day falling apart, one day has it all together, the next day exhausted and angry. They went from that, from living with that, to living with someone who has anchored and is sustaining a constant, coherent flow of their being, and they are living in a state of peace and balance. And so that is a very different world. That is a very different world. And it happened over time, and it happened with me implementing what I was learning, the way that I was understanding myself and understanding the world around me began to change. And as I allowed those changes, I was healing these spaces of myself that had become disconnected because of the way in which we bring up humans, the way in which we raise our children. And it's not bad on the parents. They're raised the same way as well. And we've changed it. We're changing it. It's changed now. You know, there's a lot of very aware and available, observant parents that are acknowledging the child from first breath as eternal essence, you know, soul, and not compartmentalizing them into a specific doctrine, theology, cultural teaching, or religion, or science, but they're letting them, yes, they're letting them know they are loved, and they're letting them be who they are in their essence as this divine spark within a now. And they're listening to them, and they're hearing them, and their insights and their knowings and their remembrances. And instead of that being your imagination or child's play or silliness or pretend or whatever, it's seen as a space of remembrance that they're bringing into the now, and it's valued. Now, it's not always, and there's, you know, still spaces of parenting that are very traditional to the way in which we've done things probably for the entire history of humanity. But there are parents that are doing it differently. And so a huge wave of love to all of you who are doing it differently. And you don't even know what you're doing probably, because nobody taught you to be this space. You're just trusting yourselves. You're leaning in, you're listening with your hearts, and you're doing your best to show up with presence and love, but also guidance and directive, because you have to guide and direct them. They are children, and they're not here to be your parent. You're here to be theirs. So it's a fine line. It's a creative dance for sure. I feel like I stepped into it with my kids once I stepped into the space of my own awakening. And even before I had experienced my own shift and begun the healing of my own life, I always saw my kids as individual beings, individual souls, humans that I was going to walk with for a certain amount of time and would be blessed by that walk, and I could be a blessing to their walk as well, but that they were their own person, and that it wasn't my job to tell them who to be or how to be the space of themselves that they were here to be, to allow. So it was interesting. I wrote a book. I never published it. I still have it in like an editing format that I never finished, but I wrote it a long time ago, and it was called Level Ground Parenting. And it was this understanding of how when you talk to a child and you're standing and they're a child, so they're shorter than you most of the time, right? You are automatically in that position of stance, and their height and your height. You're automatically coming from, in a sense, I know more than you. And you may know more than them as living life on Earth and being a human. They may be new to this space, right? And they've never done it before as this version of themselves. But have you ever seen someone squat down, bend down, and they talk to the child and they look at them in the eye, face to face, There's a different energy coming off of the child and off of the adult. And it's this, yes, it's this energy of balance that says, I see you. I see you. And I do not discount your thoughts or your feelings because you're a different size or a different age. I see you. And I'm listening and I'm present with you. And I see that happen with an adult and a child. And I always say, oh, there you go. Good, good, good. But for me, that helped spark level ground parenting. That's where I came up with the title. That's where I came up with the concept. The understanding that I believe, and this is my take, you can have yours. I believe for me and my children, the best parenting spaces came when I got on their level and I didn't talk down to them or at them, but I spoke with them. And I always held in my mind and in my heart as we were communicating and having any experience, I always held in my mind and in my heart that they were eons and eons and eons old in their soul, their consciousness, and they were having a now as a human being that I created in the sense of I'm their mother and I birthed them into this world, and that I have the opportunity, the responsibility to love them and to be with them as they explore this space of their expansion, of their journey. And being on their level, and I talked to them, meant respecting them, hearing them, seeing them, allowing their words, allowing their beliefs, allowing their opinions, allowing their feelings, and then offering guidance accordingly, if needed, as needed, with love, with that, I'm right here and I see you. I'm right here. You see me. I'm not above you. You're not below me, but we're on a level ground. We're both eternal souls having a now. I may have understandings and wisdom because of the life I've lived thus far, but I do not have to force them on you. My child receives my wisdom, and then there's no attachment what they do with the wisdom. I can't make my child take the wisdom and then implement it. I can do my best to be the example of that wisdom and how that wisdom does work. And that actually speaks louder than any conversation I could ever have with them, is how they see me living my life and how my life's going. That speaks volumes. So we got way off track. We're going to talk about the things I've added into my life since my awakening and that are in my everyday world now that weren't here before. But one of those things also was the parenting, the capability of presence with your child, and not to make every single thing that comes out of their mouth gold, because that's not going to help them. But not to make everything single thing that comes out of their mouth nonsense or silliness. Find a space of balance, find a space of peace, and wrap it all up in love. And allow your wisdom. You're the adult and you have learned. Bring what you've learned in. So my 10 things. All right. The first thing that is really in my life, and it was one of the first things to come into my life as I was awakening, and it was crystals. So somebody out there hearing me now, they're like, amen, sister. Yeah, crystals. I'm surrounded by them. They're all over my home. This is an celestial. I love this celestial. It's so pretty. It's right by me all the time. I have a really large one on the floor. That was one of my really big pieces I got. This is another guy I have that's really, I love this guy. These are the guys I keep right next to me. But I have a really big celestial. Really big. Like goes from my knees to my hips when I hold it on my lap. And I always joke that if I ever had to go and save one thing from the house, I would grab the celestial. This isn't a puffalite. This is really pretty. Puffalite. And so I brought crystals into my world when I began awakening, and I started having crystals in my jewelry that I would wear on my body. I have crystals by my bed. I have crystals in my living room. I have crystals in my kitchen. I have crystals. This is my sanctuary, my office that I'm in right here. It's where I do a lot of my filming, and I also hold ceremony in here and do my Acasma Planet of Light and Healing grids in here, all of my Zoom calls. So this room is filled with crystals. I have 3 large selenite slabs. One is about 70 pounds. One is about 40 pounds. I know, they're so big. They're so cool. And I was so blessed to get them. People would fall over if they heard the stories of how I got what I have, and they were just all meant to be here. They were all meant to be here. So crystals, that's one of the things that came into my world when I began to awaken. And it's funny because I came from a belief structure that taught that crystals were bad, they were evil and dangerous, and that I shouldn't have anything to do with them. And so it was really fascinating because that was one of the, I believe as you awaken, as anyone awakens, they move through their own fear. The only way you shift energetically and vibrationally, the only way I shift energetically and vibrationally, is we have to heal the slower flow states of our being. And that's where our fears are, where shame and guilt and judgment are. So those are slower energies. They pull you into a slower state, right? If you're ascending, if you're shifting, if you're expanding, if you're spiritually awakening, you're going to start seeing the slower spaces and being given the opportunity to move them, to heal them, to shift them, to alchemize them, to change them, because then you change you. So this belief that crystals were evil and bad and I should be afraid of them, I had to heal it. And I'm going to tell you a story. I went to a crystal shop, and I'm telling you, I was raised that if you walked in a crystal store, like you were kind of in a sense asking to be attacked by evil spirits. You were allowing demons to come into your life. That's how I was raised. I'm not laughing like I think that's funny, because I'm amazed at the healing that I've done, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm smiling and laughing because I'm so grateful to be on this side of me. Fear in general makes you sick, and I carried a lot of fear wrapped up in religious teachings and spaces that were intended to be helpful, absolutely 100% intended to be helpful, but they were all anchored in fear. So I went to a crystal store. I went with my best friend at the time, and she knew my story, and I remember parking in the parking lot, and we started to walk up to the door of the store, and she smiled at me. My friend smiled at me, and she kind of took my hand for a second, and she just looked at me and she said, "You okay? You gonna be okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do it. I'm gonna be fine. And we walked into the store, and I remember the first thing I noticed was I loved the smell. I don't know if I find almost every crystal store I've ever gone to since, they all smell amazing. It's the incense and the sage and the patchouli, and it's just, they smell amazing. I love those smells. So immediately the scent was welcoming to me, which is important, right? It's part of comfort in a sense. And then I began to look around, and everything visually looked whimsical and magical and vibrant and bright. There were crystals and colorful art, and just everything looked so beautiful. Now, there were some sections of the store that did scare me still at that space, not anymore, but it took a couple years walking through crystal stores, and I would make myself walk through the spaces of like Wicca or I mean, some of these stores had like voodoo doll stuff in them. They had just different types of practices that I still feel like some of them have darkness available in them. I think everything has something of darkness available if that's where we choose to lean into. But I think it's because I had also been trained and programmed to hold that type of belief about those spaces, that's what I felt and picked up on when I was in them. And so they were just small areas of the store, but I felt more uncomfortable in them than I did in other areas, you know? But I kept walking through the store that first visit, and I was determined to leave with a crystal. I was going to purchase my first crystal in my whole life, and I was 40 some years old. So I did. I bought the crystal. It's beautiful. I still have it. I don't have it right near me, or I would show it to you, but it's really beautiful, and it's a clear quartz, and it's got two very large growth points coming out, and then some smaller ones at the bottom, but really beautiful, clear. And I bought it and I brought it home, and I remember putting it in my house and having thoughts here and there about the programming that said, now you've opened a door, now you've done it, now this is going to happen and that's going to happen and you're going to be sorry and all this. And I would just have to keep pushing through, moving through those fear spaces and resetting myself and resetting my belief, resetting my thought, and choosing to redirect myself out of that thought of fear and into the thought of peace and balance. So crystals were the first thing that came in. And I can remember even prior to going into that store, prior to my first time in a crystal store, my youngest was about 4. I mean, my oldest was 4 years old. She's like 26 now. But when she was 4 years old, I was at the mall. I think it was Christmas time. And my sister was into crystals, and my other sister wasn't. But my one sister was. And she said, oh, look at this store. Let's go in this store. It looks so pretty. And it was a crystal store. And this was before I had my awakening, and I had went in the store myself and walked through my fears. But I remember holding my daughter's hand and telling her, we do not go in those stores. And I told my sister, no, we're not going in there. And so I was programming my daughter with the program I was given. No judgment. My program came from a space it was given to, and that came from a space it was given to, and all of it is designed to get us to the space we're at now, and it's fantastic. So we haven't missed a beat. We're right where we need to be. It's all unfolding divinely, and I'm grateful to be who I am and where I am, and I'd only be this by being that. So, but it's wisdom, it's information, it's knowledge, it's understanding. I was doing with her what had been done with me, and the fears that I would eventually choose to walk through, she was going to have to at some point or another, to some degree, depending upon how long I kept her in that alignment based on being a parent. She would walk through them herself as well, if she chose to. So crystals were a really big shift for me, bringing crystals into my life, and they've never left. I've only put more in my life. I've only added more. If I had to pick favorites, like I said, I love my celestial. I love celestials in general. Just looking around the room, I have amethyst, obsidian, clear quartz, smoky quartz, milky quartz, labradorite, selenite, Lemurian, agate, apophyllite, aquamarine, bloodstone, shungite, Larimar, amber, and there's many more in here, but I love crystals. I'm surrounded by crystals. They're incredible. They're beautiful. They are allies. They are allies. They are made from the earth itself. So it's spaces of the earth itself, in a sense, carrying these incredible frequencies in them and conveyances of those frequencies. I've had many massive shift points of my awakening, my spiritual awakening, while holding a crystal. And yeah, it's a means in which higher dimensional beings, spaces of ourselves in higher dimensional spaces of us, we're multidimensional beings, but crystals are a means of communication. It's kind of interesting in a sense. It's not exactly the same, but just follow. There's a show, I want to say it was called Stargate. And I know there were a couple different versions, but it's the one where they found this ship that was like super old, I think. And it was like moving through a galaxy, and they figured out they got on it. And then through a Stargate, they got on it. And then they would communicate back with Earth and sometimes swap out consciousness with a person on Earth from a person on the ship, and vice versa, so that the person could go visit a loved one because they were so far away in another, space of the galaxy that was not, and there was no other way for them to have a connection with their loved ones. And then sometimes they'd need help on the ship by somebody that had knowledge that they didn't have on the ship, so they'd switch out. So the consciousness of the engineer on Earth would switch with the consciousness of one of the people that were on this ship in the galaxy, and they used these stones. Does anybody remember this in the show? I know there's probably a much more scientific way to explain it, but they used these stones. So the person on the ship would like put their hand on the stone and would like hold the intention to allow the switch, and then the person on Earth would do something, and then their consciousnesses would shift spaces. So I think that there is so much more available with crystals, that they are higher dimensional technologies. They are tools of communication with dimensional spaces of ourselves, and they speak to our consciousness, and they also assist our body. So they have healing properties in them that help with regulating the blood or calming the nervous system or assisting the eye health, all like different things. And a lot of it's been studied and documented, and you can get books on it. But I worked with crystals to assist my health on mental, emotional, and physical. And they did. And I would wear like a certain one in a certain way on my body for a certain amount of time. And I mean, I've actually thought about holding like classes, workshop courses on this, because it really does work. And you just have to be willing to listen to your intuition and be consistent and wear and work with the crystal ally, repetitively for a certain amount of time, but it will help you shift the frequency and bring in the healing, and on all different levels of your body. So crystals are a staple in my life, and I love, 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 love them. I don't see them as objects. I see them as, yes, connection points of source. I have a human body, they have a crystal formation, and yet we are all carrying the conveyance, of the consciousness of source. So I love crystals. All right. Another thing that I added into my world upon awakening is I love sage. I never really used sage my whole life. I didn't even know what sage was until I started becoming more spiritual, I guess is a way we could look at it. So when I began spiritually awakening, I began researching energy and the way the body works energetically, with the way our emotions are bringing us understandings, and our ailments, our physical ailments and disease bring us understanding about how we're off, where we're off energetically, emotionally. And so in moving into that space of myself, I realized, and I kind of said this in the very beginning of the call, my life was really good and really beautiful, but I was exhausted. Everything looked perfect, except inside me, I was depleted. And I was hormonally out of balance. I had no idea. I didn't know about postpartum understanding. I had had 2 children. I never heard the word postpartum or understood the possibility of that. But I did go through it in a sense to some degree. And then that affects your hormone level. I went through perimenopause without having any understanding of it. And when I was in menopause, I found an incredible man, doctor, who a friend referred me to. That is a story in itself of divine guidance. But he got me balanced. And it took probably about 2 years of trial and error because I was so out of balance. It took about 2 years to get me balanced. Plus, I was coming out of menopause. So I was just like stopping having a period, and I was going months at a time without one. And my body was in a totally different space of the production of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and all of these things that balance us. So it took me about 2 years to get balanced, but I realized that I had this life that looked amazing and was amazing in most all ways, except I had no space in that life for my authenticity, for me, for like everything was built around, and there's nothing wrong with this, as long as there's balance. Everything was built around everybody else and me making sure we had, the great house and the great family setup and the great neighbors and connections and extracurricular activities and holidays, vacations, all these things that we see as what make life rich or good. But they were just filling spaces temporarily. And then when they would be done, there would be this emptiness in a sense, or void. And I realized I didn't have any depth in the life that made me feel like I was really sustaining myself or nurturing myself or dedicating a space to myself, right? And I had a religious connection. I was raised in the Christian faith my whole life. And that was like a lifeline for me because I was able to navigate a lot of these imbalanced spaces of my health because I held on to Jesus so tightly. And it was my faith that got me through it. And Jesus will say, he says that to you himself in the scriptures. People will say, well, Jesus got you through it. And Jesus will tell you straight up, it was my faith in Jesus that got me through it. It's your faith that makes you well. What you place your faith in is what you are working with and is working with you to assist the space and the movement, right? But there's the story of Jesus moving through the village and all the crowd around him and the woman who was ill or her daughter was ill. There's 2 different versions. She knew if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she would be well, or the daughter would be well. I always heard it was the daughter, but then I saw somebody do a TV show on it and it was her, but I think they redo things for TV. Anyways, Jesus was walking through the crowd. His back was turned to, this woman was coming up behind him. She was kind of wiggling through the crowd. And she was crying and just knowing if she could just touch the hem of his garment, that's all she needed. Her faith was so strong. If she could just touch the hem. So she pushes through the crowd. She reaches through as far as she can. She's stretching and she touches the hem of his garment as he's continuing to move forward, and he stops. And he immediately says, "Who touched me? Who touched me?" And the disciples, the men that were with him, were his followers, they're like, "What do you mean, who touched you? You're surrounded by people. Oh, there's so many people touching you right now." As it was like a crowd. And he goes, "No, someone touched me with great faith." And he felt the movement of the energy, the miracle, the flow of healing, the movement of the divine through him that he was the walking, talking anchor point of, right? And when she touched his garment, because of her faith, that movement of energy was able to move to her, through him, through her. And so he says, "Who touched me?" They say, "What do you mean? Blah, blah, blah." He turns around and she immediately is like eye to eye with him. And he's like, "Who touched me?" And she says, "I did, Lord." And she kind of bows her head a little because she's like, what am I going to do? He knows. I know he knows. And he walks over to her and she says, "I just knew if I touched the hem of your garment, my child would be well. My child's at home and she's sick, blah, 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 blah." And he says, she goes, "I knew you would heal her." And he said, your faith has healed her. Go home and you will find her well." And if I'm butchering this and the story was, it was her, let's just all allow. But I know the story is there where her faith was what brought it home. So as I was navigating spiritual expansion and awakening, and my body was all over the place with its health, and it's that thing we all see, or most people have the understanding of, when you wake up, it's like a crumbling away of your old life, right? It's like an earthquake. It's like the tower card in the tarot. I have a community called the Acasma Family of Light. One of our community members shared a post the other day, and it said, "You're like a glow stick. You're not broken. You're just getting ready to shine." And before a glow stick, you have to pop it, you have to crack it, and then you shake it up, and then it glows, right? And so the great shout out to you, Barbie. That was a great share you did. But that is like what my life was, right? I was that glow stick, and I was not on yet. I wasn't on. I wasn't shining yet. I was disconnected from my essence and my I am flow. And so my being was trying to wake itself up. So I created all of these life experiences that cracked me open and shook me up. And through the whole process of this cracking open and shaking, the whole process, walking in the crystal store, terrified. Oh, learning about full moons was a big thing for me, and full moon ceremony and all this stuff. That was a big space. Every space of fear I walked through, every space of healing I walked through, Jesus walked with me. I wasn't hanging on to the theology. I was going into spaces that the theology said, you do not go. But I wasn't a follower of the theology. I wasn't a believer in the theology, but I did believe in Jesus. I do believe in Jesus. The understanding of the space of consciousness embodied in a being, a human, to bring forth the remembrance of the I am is not separate ever. So I realized I didn't have any spaces for me. I really just me, right? So I created an altar in my home. I had an altar in my home before. Let's hear this, please. I had an altar in my home before, but every time I had went to that altar, I was seeking something outside of myself to save me. I created an altar that when I sat down in front of it or stood in front of it and I lit sage or I lit a candle or I set a crystal there or whatever I was doing, I was holding the intention, allowing the alignment that I and the divine are one. Period. I don't need a pastor. I don't need a priest. I don't need confession. I don't need a theology. I don't need a dogma. I am one with origin. I am one with source. I am one with God. I am one with Great Spirit. I am one. I am that space in a variation point having a now. I never, ever, ever had an altar that recognized that I held that intention with and as until that space of my life. And that's when I brought sage in. And I found it fascinating because I was clearing a lot of fears, but I never used sage in the sense of feeling like the energy was negative or bad or dark or wrong, and I had to clear it by using sage. And I know that is a technique and a way that sage is used, and I believe in it 100%, but I used sage as a blessing. So I still do. Where's my little thing? Oh, right here. I light a little sage even before I come on any call, whether I'm making a video, whether I'm doing a client call, whether I'm doing a class, I light a little bit of sage. And when I hold ceremony, I work with sage, but always coming from it being a blessing of my space. That was always, that's very important. It's always been important for me to state it and share it as well, because I don't think that is a normal go-to for people with sage. Most of the time, sage is a tool to get rid of evil. And as long as we're coming from a space of ourselves that believes we have all this evil to get rid of, we're going to continue to experience more evil to get rid of. So for me to be coming in from this knowing, innate, that I'm just blessing the space. I love the smell. I love the scent. I'm just blessing the space because I'm happy and I'm making more experiences that say, oh, this is just such a beautiful, happy space. Okay, so crystals and sage, and then energy healing. Energy healing came into my life in a big way. I started with the first session I ever had was with my sister, the one that loved the crystals that I wouldn't go in the crystal store with in the beginning. Now half the crystals I have in my home came from her. Those big selenite logs I told you about, 75-pound selenite log, 40-pound selenite log. I got those from my sister. Okay, so Reiki. She was a Reiki master. I used to drive 2 hours because I lived 2 hours from her. And I would drive 2 hours and spend the weekend with her. And she would teach me Reiki. I would go to her classes. She taught in her house. And so I learned how to do Reiki and I became a Reiki master. And I would do self sessions. I would do sessions on my kids. I would do sessions for clients. But I also, it was very dabbly in the sense that I was still walking myself out of the more traditional, this is what life looks like. I was still working a 9 to 5, but I worked from home so I could be with my kids, and I could be a stay-at-home mom, which was very important to me. And I also homeschooled my kids, which was very important to me. So I worked a full-time job out of my house, homeschooled my kids, was shifting my life, resetting my hormones. Just a few things were going on. But energy healing was very, very helpful. I remember going to the chiropractor for chiropractic care, which was extremely helpful. I didn't put it on my list, but I would definitely suggest it if you're going through spiritual awakening, go to chiropractic care. It really does help you move your energy that can be stuck in the body. And I remember having my first quantum healing touch, I think they called it, quantum touch or quantum healing touch. It was just another type of energy work, energy session. It was just like Reiki, but the guy called it something else. And so that was my first spaces with energy healing. And then I began to do energy healing more and more and more for others. And people were having really beautiful, profound experiential life shifts and healings. So I started doing it even more, and it evolved and opened up as I evolved and opened up and became more available for it to do so. And that's where Acasma quantum energy came in. I walked myself home back into the connection point of this higher dimensional space of energetic healing and ascension assistance that I now do, which is my career. And I've written books about it. I teach courses about it, but it's called Acasma, Acasma, Acasma quantum energy. And it is fascinating and incredible, incredible. But energy healing came into my life and things have never been the same. I no longer do Reiki. People will ask me all the time, well, do you still do Reiki? And if you read my book, if you take my class, if you come to some of my group spaces, you'll understand why I am very grateful and deeply respectful of the space of Reiki. And it was a step in my journey. And now this space of me, I'm allowing this higher dimensional alignment. There are spaces within Acasma quantum energy that are not in Reiki, and we are ready for these spaces. That's how they're able to be here. So, all right, another thing that came in that I love, that I do now that I didn't do then, is oracle cards. So I started reading oracle cards, and I was just blown away at the ability of the card to be so spot on with what I was dealing with at the time and what I was contemplating at the time. And I would read for my friends and they would be blown away. And so it was just, I just loved oracle cards, and I still love them. I actually created 2 oracle card decks, and I have an Etsy shop and I sell them on my Etsy shop. This is the Oceans deck. It's called the Acasma Oceans deck, and it's a pretty cool deck. Gives a lot of guidance and understandings, and just walks you through spaces in a really positive way, and gives you also energy assistance. So my oracle decks come with energy keys. So one of the cards could come up as an energy key. And if it is, then that's for you to work with. So not only are you getting guidance, but you're also getting energetic assistance. This is my Goddess deck. And the Goddess deck has general cards that help you just kind of get an idea of where you're at right then and there. Very general, let it go could come in. You're like, oh, what's going on right now with my relationship with so-and-so and this issue we have, let it go. Then there's these energy key cards. Again, they're here to assist with the space you're navigating energetically. So those are 2 of the decks. I actually have 3 decks, but I don't have the third one right here. I would grab it and show it to you. But oracle decks came into my life when I stepped into the spiritual awakening space. Essential oils. Oh my gosh, you guys know me. You know I love essential oils. I use cedarwood a lot. Love cedarwood. I have several blends that I love. They're just so beautiful. And sometimes I get, this is a moringa blue lotus. That's a pretty popular one online. Some of my oils come from, I think it's Wick Art in Australia. And then some of them come from a beautiful woman named Ness. And she's in Australia as well. I love that. But I love working with essential oils. I have rose. I work with rose a lot, frankincense, cedarwood. I don't know. I love them. I love them. I love them. I love them. What do I do with them? I wear them every single day. Essential oils are like crystals. They come from the earth, and they hold properties that have been studied, scientifically documented, They have really cool terms and names that I don't know how to pronounce correctly, but we could do a whole podcast on them. But these molecules that make up the oils, they assist the cells in the human body, and they assist in various ways. And then there's this aromatherapy layer and it's energetic layer. It's just incredible. Again, from the earth. It's all available, right? It's all available. Everything we need. Our bodies are designed to live on the earth. This is our home right now. And we're masterfully designed for this space. Yet we tend to look for things that are not natural, and we feel safer with them because the program taught us to fear the crystals or fear the oils or fear the mushrooms or fear the herb, whatever it is. But it used to be, I believe, probably maybe 1800s, it was a go-to. And then pharmaceuticals came in and things changed. Another go-to for me, a space I didn't have before awakening. I knew about it, but I just never really did it, and no desire at all. But it was a massive healing conduit or bridge of healing for me, and that was meditation. Meditation. I did a lot of work with Joe Dispenza's meditations. He has the Blessing of the Energy Centers, and he has a couple others that I liked. And this was like probably 10 years ago. Now I make them. I make meditations and energy session audios for people. I have them for free on my YouTube channel, not this channel, but my other one. This is my AwakenPod. This is this type of content only. But the other channel, it's like a hodgepodge of all kinds of stuff. And it includes meditation and energy sessions. So if you're interested, I have them over there. And they're infused with this Acasma quantum energy that I spoke of. They're infused with that higher dimensional connection, your remembrance being activated and expanded as you connect. So meditation was a big one for me. And then time with nature. I always loved to look at nature, but I never was really one to go out and be in nature. And then I just felt an unbelievable draw to go to Sedona, Arizona, and the Grand Canyon. And it was like 2017 when I made the decision, I have to go. For years, I was being called to go. Like my inner knowing was like, you have to go. And I was like, why? Like, what is there? A rock? I know it sounds so weird now. If you know me, you're like, really? You said that then? But nature, time with nature. I love trees. I love tree energy. I live on 15 acres of land now. I lived in the city before. I live in the country now. I have a massive ancient oak tree right outside my window, an incredible oak that sweeps to the ground and back up. I have a line of pine trees, several stories high, that just, they surround me like an incredible hedge of beauty. Ha, majesty. Yes, there's 3 large trees at the entrance of my property, and I call them the 3 kings. The 3 kings. So nature, being in nature, getting connected with nature, sitting in nature, putting your feet on the ground, looking at the trees, listening to the animals, however that works for you. That is something that changed for me. And I have 3 left if you'd like to hear the rest of these. I know we've been almost an hour just talking about these, but it's such a really, I think, important space, because everything I'm talking about was a way in which I said, I love you to myself. And it's a way in which I still am saying, I love you. Every single time I engage one of these spaces that work for me, that are my personal connections, I'm saying, I love you. And I'm allowing that love. So supplements, that was another big change for me. You know, in the beginning of the story, I told you I was trying to get myself in balance. And so I didn't take any vitamins at the time. I ate and drank whatever I wanted. And I began realizing I was depleted of several types of vitamins or minerals because I had testing done with that beautiful doctor I told you about. And I'll give his name if you want to go looking for him. He does take on new patients, and I believe he takes on patients from all over the world because he's so good. He's really good at what he does. But his name is Dr. Emhoff, EMHOF, and he's in Tallahassee, Florida. So supplements were added. So I started taking vitamins and supplements and herbs, and some of them I don't do anymore because I don't need them anymore. But some of them helped me heal my nervous system, reset my system, more of the physical, biological makeup of me. I can remember drinking this nettle tea that my sister, again, the crystal store sister, taught me how to make. And I remember you had to like get the nettle leaves. You couldn't just buy the tea bags. You had to go to like the health food store and buy where you just get the leaves. And then you had to put them in this like cloth and then put them in a mason jar with water, hot water, and you put the lid on and you leave it on the counter and you cover it with a towel, I think. And you left it there overnight. And then you put it in the fridge and then you sip on it for like 3 days or something like that. But supposedly, I don't remember the thing it makes, but it's like the thing that it creates, you know, the highest level of what good stuff that's in there, helps your nervous system, I think. So that was a really big plus. But when I added in supplements, some of the supplements I no longer need to take. And some of them were like herbal teas and some of them were like, you know, a capsule. But it was a journey of learning my own needs and listening and trusting and being dedicated and consistent. That's the biggest thing I can share. Be dedicated and consistent. That will equal peace and balance, because other than that, you're just yo-yoing yourself around, and it's, you know, make it worse before it would ever make it better. Another big change for me, so we only have 2 left. Another big change for me was and is filtered water. So I bought, back then it was a Berkey. I think now it's called a Barreau, but I'm not positive. I can put the word on here for you. But it's just a big stainless steel 2-compartment tower that's in my kitchen that has these filters in the top, and I just pour my water in the top. I live on land, like I said, so I have a well and I have really good water, but it's a little high in calcium, but not detrimentally. So I pour the water into the filter and I have a softener on my system. So I like that. The softener makes me want to do the filtration more than anything, but I used to live in the city. If you live in the city, please filter your water. Just please filter your water. But I filter my water, and I didn't used to filter my water, and now I do, and I have for years, and I believe it plays a really huge role in your health as well. Now, none of these should be done because you feel like if you don't, you're something bad's going to happen to you. They should not become an obsession. Should not become something that if you go on a trip and you don't have filtered water, you freak out because all you have is a glass of tap water at a restaurant. Deal with it. Like if you're that out of balance that moment is going to make you have to go to leave a perfectly good event space and go grab a bottle of water from a gas station or something. I'm just using this as an example. I think you understand what I mean. That's more unhealthy than the water. Don't get riled up about it. Don't get freaked out about it. Like, trust the spaces, trust you, do your best, be as consistent as you can, but don't let it become an obsessive disorder. So my number 10, my last thing that I added into my life that wasn't here before my awakening. It's a really cool thing, and I love it. And I didn't even see the love of it coming or being as deep as it is now. I never read a book about this. I never watched a video about this. I never went to a class about this. I never, ever, ever studied anything about this. And it is just innately rising in me, through me, as me. And it's ceremony. I do ceremony now. I hold ceremony for others, do ceremony for individuals, clients. I do group-based ceremonies. I do collective-based ceremonies for the whole human collective. And I do ceremony in my own everyday life. I was making a video the other day with one of the spiritual community members, my spiritual community. We were talking about how your life becomes a ceremony itself when you allow that reconnection of your I am in your now. And you allow that essence origin to flow into your now. And you're still human, and you're still very human life, having the everyday ins and outs. But you're also available in those ins and outs as your human who has remembered it is eternal. And life becomes a ceremony. Life becomes a ceremony. We started off, I told you I love crystals and I have them all around me. I told you that I love sage and I light it a lot just to be happy and bless my space and smell the scent and love the moment. And I put oils on my body. That's a ceremony. That's a ceremony. I'm celebrating my life. I'm celebrating me. I'm celebrating love, peace, balance, bliss. Yes. There are ceremonies that I do. I've done ceremonies to remove lack, to end ancestral sorrow and pain and separation, yes, to restore peace, yes, to clear bloodlines. I taught a class, 7 separate ceremonies were taught in that class, and it's a powerful class. I might bring it back in 26. But ceremony came in. And like I said, no one's ever taught me how to do it. It's innate in many of us. And many of us also just being around a ceremony someone else is doing and or offering and or teaching, it pings that space of us and activates that space of us that we innately hold, that is in that alignment of us holding ceremony ourselves. So yeah, sometimes when I do ceremony, I did one at the beach this year for a destination event that I held, and I bring my drum and I wear my long beads that have a cool name and I can never remember the name of. And I dance and I sing and I chant and I speak light language and I light sage and I work with crystals and whatever elements I feel to bring into the space. And I do it all in public, tourist walking by. And that's why I have the smile I have on my face, and it actually matches the energy I have in my heart. I'm living my authentic truth. I'm living my authentic truth. So those are my 10 things. Recap: crystals, sage, energy healing, oracle card reads, essential oils, meditation, nature, time in nature, supplements, filtered water, and ceremony, holding ceremony, facilitating ceremony. So it was fun to share these with you. I love all of these spaces. We could talk about any of them in detail and in depth. Probably the crystals and the oils, that would be fun to do because we could go into more detail and you could work with them in your everyday life and allow the healing, allow the expansion, allow the love. So maybe we'll do that. We'll see. So this is awesome. We just talked about the top 10 things that I added into my world as I awakened, right? And this is the AwakenPod. Is a space you get to be a member of, come to connect with, and glean from. And we're going into 2026. This is being released, if I'm not mistaken, on January 1st. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Maybe looking at this list of 10 things, if you already are utilizing these things, bless them, connect with them deeper, allow them your love and your connection, your availability. And maybe there's something on the list that is a space you haven't had on your list yet. And maybe it resonates for you and it might be added in 2026. So I'm looking forward to this year. I'm looking forward to it in every way possible. There's so much beauty and so much love available. And it is available because we're available to it. It's not like we're looking for it as if it may not happen. We're looking for it because we already are available inside of ourselves. We love ourselves. We love the understanding of ourselves as eternal beings having a now. And we allow that love and that peace and that safe understanding of who we are. We allow that to flood into our physical everyday life, and it shows. It shows up. It's all energy, it's all connection. So I'm super excited for 2026, and I'm super grateful to be it with you. So thank you for being this space. Thank you for being this space. I am going to offer a blessing here. I don't usually do that energy and the blessings on the pod space, but I'm going to do it. And we're going to do a blessing on your 2026. So just close your eyes for just a moment and allow your breath. Just allow the space. Just allow your breath. Yes, beautifully done. Now just allow the body to relax. We say, let the body drop. Breathe. And I want you to see, imagine, intend 2026 has not happened yet. You are on day one, and or wherever you're at with finding this video. See the spaces ahead of you, whether that's 2026 or beyond. It's this concept humans hold as the space ahead. Whether you find this when it's released or 10 years later, you have a space ahead. And you align this very moment for the space ahead. The directive of your flow. The blessing of your own path. That your faith moves the mountains. Yes. Clear and reset the space accordingly to your directive. That whatever experiences are in this space ahead of you, you are guarded, you are guided, you are loved, you are safe, yes, and you are empowered, infused with Source itself. Yes. Having a now, remembering who it is, and allowing that remembrance to flood through. Yes. To all the spaces you are being, you are having, you are experiencing. See the spaces ahead and cover them, purposefully cover them right now in golden white light. See the golden white light flooding out over your experiences, your events, your gatherings, work, family, friend. Yes. spaces of being alone, golden white light over all your spaces, and then imagine your breath blowing over those spaces, a blessing of peace and balance. And then take a deep breath and exhale slowly over your life. Yes, yanea kau kuai. Yanea kau kuai. Tabui nane yanawa. Atao kukua. Atao kukua. Atao kukua. Allow the space. Allow your breath. Beautifully done. You have intentionally directed your energy. You have blessed your life. You, Holy One. Yes. Well done. Yes. I hold the alignment with you. Yes. I see the spaces with you. Yes. And I see the flow of the I am. Yes. I see the flow of the peace that passes all understanding. Yes. I see the flow of balance, of abundance, of truth, of light, of love. Yes. Of wisdom, of grace flowing through your life. I see it with you. We bless it together now. Nane hiana kawa. Ha ha bo ho aye. Yana Noah. Ta okay. Ta okay. Sane ne yawa. Beautifully done. We seal it with our love. Yes. We seal it with our light. We seal it together now. Yes. And you can bring your focus back to your physical sight whenever you're ready. And if you want to stay in longer, you stay in longer. But when you bring your focus back, you allow a moment for you to acknowledge the vibration is new. Just think it. Just feel into it. Just be available to that thought. Curious about that thought, excited about that thought, grateful for that thought. The vibration is new. You think it, you're opening up the space for it to be new. You feel it, you're opening up the space for it to be new. The vibration is new. My vibration is new. Ha! The vibration is new. Because it is new. We talked about too many beautiful things for us not to be in a new alignment of us. All right, so thank you for being this space. I'm so excited to be it with you. It's always so much fun, and this was an incredible one. I really loved it. Please leave a comment below if you like this space. Give it a thumbs up if you like this space. And if you don't already subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and I will feel your love. All right, huge wave of love to you. Blessings on your 2026 and all your nows. I love you, I love you, I love you. Bye-bye.